Born on the same day, her brother only favored the golden-eyed one, because she was the chosen holy maiden, even as the younger sister burned. They didn't hesitate. They rescued the unhurt older sister. Ignoring the girl's desperate screams in the fire, her brothers wouldn't even spare her a cold glance, but they didn't know. The sister they abandoned, she was the true holy maiden who would save the world. But fate had other plans. The girl didn't die in that endless fire. Yet what awaited her was a tragic fate as a mere stand-in. At the sacrificial ceremony days later, she was once again used as bait in place of the holy maiden. No one cared if she was willing. No one cared if she lived or died, like dying for the maiden was an honor. Her life was cheaper than a lowly ant. Far away, crowds cheered for the maiden. While she felt her life slip away in the dark, if there's a next life, she won't be anyone's stand-in. She wants to write her own story. Perhaps the gods heard her dying prayer. The girl was reborn once more. She returned to before the tragedy began, and in this life, she'll run far away before meeting the holy maiden. But just then, a massive figure, a fat woman, blocked her path. The girl immediately realized this was the innkeeper. In her past life, she abused her skinny self endlessly, and now, she's back for another round of sickening torture, smirking. The woman shoved a basket of wild flowers at her, then threatened her. Sell them before dark, or no dinner, little Leah knew. This was the innkeeper's way of punishing her, but she didn't care anymore. She was ready to run. When the woman wasn't looking, she kicked her fat butt hard. Then she bolted down the street. She was finally free from the innkeeper's grasp. But penniless, where could she go? The next second, the girl smelled a strong stench of blood. She carefully walked over, only to see a man covered in blood, unconscious in the alleyway. His luxurious clothes showed his noble status. Little Leah's eyes instantly lit up. This is a god of wealth sent from heaven. The girl quietly reached out her sinful little hands, but before she could react, the alert man grabbed her wrist. His cold eyes narrowed dangerously. Little Leah's pupils shrank abruptly. Isn't this the evil duke who killed her in her past life? Why is it such a small world? The girl was ready to bolt at any second. But the next moment, the man's tone became incredibly humble. His ruby red eyes, they were covered in a thick layer of mist. In his days, he mistook Little Leah. He thought she was his first love. The man's voice was filled with desperate sorrow. He asked the girl in his arms, why couldn't she choose him? He could kneel. He could be her dog. He could treat her daughter as his own, as long as she chose not to abandon him. Little Leah was shocked by this shocking confession. She was speechless. After a long while, seeing the man holding her had stopped moving, the girl struggled to push him away. She weighed the heavy coin purse in her hand. Her little brain was already planning her escape route, but seeing the man covered in wounds, she felt a bit guilty. After all, she did take all the gold coins on him. Besides, if she saved him in passing, maybe she'd leave herself a way out in the future. Thinking of this, the girl struggled to grab the man's collar. She used all her strength and dragged him to an isolated, abandoned house. Finally arriving, Little Leah was stuck on how to treat him. She had been pricked by needles. She had been beaten up. The worst time, she only lay in bed for 2 days. But how to treat his knife wounds? She could only use her only clothes to bandage him. But before the wound was done, her attention was caught by the man, by the silver necklace on his neck. It caught her eye. Its shiny look could definitely sell for a lot of money. The little money grubber was tempted again. But when she opened the box, inside was actually a small lock of red hair. This must be something precious to him. Principled Little Leah ultimately couldn't bear to steal it. Just then, a strong wave of dizziness overtook her consciousness. Soon, the drowsy girl fell asleep. But when the sunset glow spilled on her face, the one who woke up finally realized it was too late to run away now. She looked guiltily at the man in front of her. Her restless little hands hit the purse in her arms again and again. The girl desperately prayed her theft wouldn't be discovered. But unexpectedly, the man spoke and asked her a strange question. Are you Rosalind's daughter? The familiar name made Little Leah tremble all over. The man in front of her actually mistook her for the Holy Maiden's daughter. She was once again inexplicably treated as someone's stand-in. The girl frantically denied this identity that terrified her. But right then, other people's voices came from outside the door. It was the thugs hired by the innkeeper. If they caught her slacking off, she'd be dead. She quickly pulled the man to hide behind the sofa, but her unintentionally exposed arm was revealed right in front of the duke. It was completely covered in needle pricks and burn marks. The daughter-obsessed man instantly lost it. She's a true holy maiden who saves the world, but her identity was stolen by her manipulative sister. The poor girl could only wander the streets as a beggar, but the gears of fate led her meet the father searching for his daughter. The man looked heartbroken at that slender arm. The skin covered in pinpricks was full of abuse marks. Little Leah instinctively hid the wounds with her sleeve, but she saw burning anger in the man's eyes. He gently patted his daughter's head, then told her to be good. Don't look, don't listen. The next second, miserable screams echoed through the abandoned house. The thugs who were so arrogant just now were swiftly dealt with by the duke. The cramped space reeked of unshakable bloody scent, until the man patted Little Leah's head again. The girl cautiously opened her eyes. She looked blankly at the duke kneeling on one knee. She heard him sincerely say he wanted to adopt her as his only daughter. At this moment, Little Leah lowered her head in pain. The man's words awakened her unbearable memories. She knew the duke was looking for her sister with the golden eyes. Sooner or later, she would be ruthlessly abandoned by everyone. She didn't want to experience the despair of being unloved again. She didn't want fleeting moments of beauty to become fragile bubbles, so the girl righteously refused. But the persistent duke gently tempted her. He told Little Leah he'd buy her even prettier dolls. He'd give her cleaner dresses, a spacious bed as soft as clouds. She would never have to live a wandering life again, his firm words made the girl believe him for a split second, but her past life's memories rudely awakened her from the sweet dream. She knew the man was lying. But having never been loved, she also wanted to cling to a few days of brief happiness. Sensible as she was, she didn't hope to be the duke's daughter forever. She just hoped before the true holy maiden appeared, she'd have a shelter from the storm. So she cautiously asked the man if the duke's mansion had a spare horse stable. She's easy to raise. A thick pile of straw is enough for her. Little Leah's obedient look made the duke's nose sting. He quickly told his daughter the duke's mansion has lots of money. After going back with him, she wouldn't suffer anymore. Then he asked the girl what else she wanted. Little Leah said seriously she wanted to eat hot meals, not leftovers from others. After speaking, the girl bit her lower lip, conflicted. She still asked the question that made her uneasy. If she isn't the one the duke, if she isn't Rosalind's daughter, would the man ruthlessly abandon her? At this moment, the duke only felt a sharp pain in his heart. He suddenly realized what his sensitive daughter was truly worried about, so he gently told the girl, even if he really got the wrong person, that wouldn't be Little Leah's fault. He would be responsible for his only daughter to the end. The sincere words moved this love-starved child. The heart that had been frozen for 2 lifetimes began to melt at this moment. The finally compromised girl agreed to the duke's adoption proposal, and she also got her own new name. The man said she had the scent of roses on her, so he called her Rosalia, symbolizing the rose. The Duke scooped his new daughter into his arms, but the next second, the sound of gold coins dropping to the ground rang in his ears. Now she's doomed. The little money grubber was instantly scared pale, but worse things were to come. She saw the Duke's forehead start bleeding profusely, and little Leah, as the main culprit, was completely panicked. This was clearly a cut she made on the road. Was it too late to run now? But unexpectedly, the scolding she expected never came. The man's voice was as gentle as ever. He told his daughter, as long as she realizes she shouldn't do it, it's fine. Then he gently said thank you to the girl. That same night, the father and daughter boarded the carriage home, and exhausted little Leah had already fallen fast asleep on her father's lap. The Duke gently patted his adorable daughter, but neither of them knew. Terrifying danger was quietly approaching in the dark. The true holy maiden wandering outside finally returned to her father's side, but arriving with an unknown background. She was ostracized by everyone, led by the Duke's most trusted butler. He scrutinized the 6 or 7-year-old child over the years. Countless scammers had posed as a holy maiden. What's more, she had the physical traits of an enemy family. She might even be a spy sent by them. The butler bluntly voiced his thoughts. Little Leah immediately hid beside the Duke uneasily, seeing his daughter's nervous look. The daughter-obsessed father instantly got furious. He said coldly, this child will be the only young lady of the Duke's mansion from now on. No one can question his daughter's identity. After speaking, the Duke led his daughter into the mansion. At this moment, little Leah suddenly felt it was all surreal, but she clearly knew in her heart, she was just a thief who stole someone else's happiness. A fraud who looked somewhat like the true holy maiden. The girl lowered her head with an inferiority complex. Just then, a gentle female voice interrupted her thoughts. It was the head maid ordered to take care of her. The woman immediately praised little Leah for being well-behaved and pretty. This made the already uneasy girl back away. Defensively, in her past life's memories, pretty was never used to describe her. The one praised was always her sister, surrounded by stars, and her existence was just to be the ugly foil setting off the true holy maiden. Her beautiful and pure sister was like a holy angel in a fairy tale, while ugly and gloomy her was a jinx despised by everyone. Little Leah didn't know why the granny in front of her was lying to her, but under the Duke's arrangement, she still followed her to the bathroom to wash up and dress. The cleaned-up girl changed into a soft pink dress. Although it didn't fit perfectly, it still made her look prettier than a doll. The head maid heard about her not eating for a long time, so the prepared dinner was easy to digest. Sweet soup, the delicious food emitted a tempting aroma, but the girl who starved for 7 days shook her head frantically. She couldn't eat it. The innkeeper had once said, orphans like her must look pitiful. Only with people's sympathy could she get food, and if she was full, she wouldn't be able to make money. She was long used to enduring hunger for long periods. If someone was willing to give her some leftovers, she would already be very satisfied. The head maid looked heartbroken at this young child. The shock in her heart couldn't be expressed in words. She immediately squatted down and promised skinny little Leah she would always make delicious food for the girl from now on. Making money is what adults should think about, and as a child, she just needs to grow up happy and healthy. That night, little Leah was arranged to sleep in the Duke's room, and the daughter-obsessed old father moved to the guest room next door. The girl who lived to lifetimes stayed in such a big room for the first time. So unsurprisingly, the excited girl couldn't sleep. Unable to sleep, she snuck into the empty courtyard, but she didn't expect to meet a boy covered in blood here. The first time meeting the cursed second prince, little Leah unintentionally broke the curse on the boy. This was something only the true holy maiden could do. But the only witness fell into a coma after breaking free. Just now, the sleepless girl was taking a boardwalk in the courtyard, but a bizarre roar shattered the calm of the night. Little Leah turned around and saw a boy covered in blood, and in his hand, he held a gleaming longsword. The demon-like figure was approaching the girl step by step, and little Leah's body was already frozen in place. The fear of being killed soon dominated her body. She couldn't even let out a cry for help, because she clearly knew the boy in front of her had long lost his mind under the curse, and the only one who could break it was not a fake imposter like her. So, is this heaven's punishment for her greed? The girl resignedly squeezed her eyes shut, but the expected pain never came after a long time. The bloodthirsty second prince still hadn't made a move. Little Leah couldn't help but peek. But right at this moment, her stomach let out a disappointing grumble. The awkward sound was magnified 100 times in the silent night. The girl's little face instantly turned red like a ripe apple, and right then, she also saw clearly the cursed mark wrapped around his neck. It was a lifelike black venomous snake. The ferocious pattern was tracing out the pale skin, upwards. The girl instinctively reached out to touch it. The next second, that bizarre curse mark miraculously retreated. The boy's eyes gradually lost focus. In a short while, he fell heavily to the ground. A terrifying crisis was inexplicably resolved just like that, and right at this moment, a certain old father who loved his daughter dearly also rushed over. The man's face was full of gentle concern for his daughter. After confirming his precious daughter was unharmed, the relieved Duke put on a serious, stern face. He told his daughter the castle at night is full of danger. She must never run around silently next time. His trembling voice carried intense lingering fear. He didn't want to lose his hard-won daughter, but at this moment, little Leah's heart was a mix of emotions. If only she was a true holy maiden her father was looking for, then she could enjoy the Duke's total favoritism with peace of mind. Unfortunately, she's not. She's just a fake who stole someone else's nest. A little beggar who will sooner or later return to poverty. A flash of imperceptible disappointment flashed in the girl's eyes, but she quickly covered it up with an innocent smile. She let her dad carry her back to the room. Before her swaying body could stand firm, little Leah couldn't wait to stand on her tiptoes. She asked her dad to lower his head a bit more. Then, amidst the Duke's stunned expression, she kissed his forehead. This was the sweet dream magic the head maid taught her. She wanted to give this blessing to her dad too. Seeing his daughter's pure and beautiful smiling face, the old father's heart was instantly melted. He also gently planted a kiss on his daughter's forehead, using the most devout prayer to wish her sweet dreams. But the warm moment between father and daughter didn't last long. The church sent people over with great fanfare to cause trouble. That so-called true holy maiden is about to appear. While the adopted girl still didn't know about her holy maiden identity, the despicable church tried every means to snatch her from the Duke's mansion. The bald leader deliberately accused the Duke of abusing the child. Also that little Leah would willingly go back with them. But their true purpose wasn't to protect the real holy maiden, but to claim this powerful force as their own. And at this very moment, the totally unaware girl was kept in the dark. Early in the morning, her father called her to his office, but what awaited her was a group of strange priests. The gloomy-faced Duke sat silently in the corner, and the bald leader had already kindly approached. With a fake smile, he demanded little Leah return with them. He even pretended to be troubled, saying, the cold-blooded Duke won't keep her anymore. At this moment, a look of disbelief appeared on the girl's face. You must know, just last night her dad even gave her kiss magic. Could it be her fake holy maiden identity has been discovered by everyone? Or is it because of her stubborn and aggressive personality making her unlikable? Then she'll change, she'll be obedient and sensible. She'll be understanding like her sister, and she can make money too. She can do all the dirty work in the Duke's mansion from now on. She definitely won't disappoint the Duke. Little Leah incoherently pleaded with her father. But looking at the still silent man in front of her, the girl fell into unprecedented despair. She thought of her past life. Her sister said she always spoke harshly, said she was only not annoying when she shut up, then she can change. She will obediently be a quiet mute. She'll sensibly stay silent in the corner. She just begs her father not to ruthlessly abandon her. She doesn't want to be pitifully alone anymore. At this moment, the suppressing old father couldn't hold it back anymore. He walked up and pulled his daughter into his arms. Then he glared fiercely at that group of provoking bald men. Actually, the Duke wanted to comfort his wrong daughter long ago, but was hindered by these bald men's despicable plot. They agreed to let little Leah choose whether to leave or not, but on the condition that the Duke couldn't speak at all. If the man broke this agreement, the church would have the right to take the Holy Maiden by force. So even if his heart ached like bleeding, the Duke could only wait for little Leah's difficult choice. But now, all the crisis is resolved and these 3 priests will pay the price for insulting nobility. The next second, several tall knights rushed into the room. They were ordered to take these creepy bald men away. The hypocritical priests finally took off their fake masks. They yelled at the Duke, roaring in absolute rage and humiliation. The bald leader screamed hoarsely that he wouldn't let the man off easily. But before he could finish, the second prince appeared like he was watching a play. At the office door to prolong the fake Holy Maiden's life, the despicable priests actually came to the Duke's to snatch her. They wanted to take little Leah back for blood experiments, but they didn't expect the Duke actually dared to publicly defy the Pope's orders. He wouldn't allow anyone to bully his precious daughter, even if the other parties served the Emperor's orders. He killed them all the same, just as the man ordered. To drag the priests away, the second prince appeared at the door with interest. Now the originally panicked bald men instantly looked like they saw their savior. The leading priest even darted to the boy's feet in a flash. He crawled on the ground looking traumatized. He confidently begged the second prince to get justice for them. The boy took a deep look at the still crying little Leah, and the kneeling priest mistakenly thought the second prince was going to help him. A smug, evil smirk instantly appeared on the man's face. He was already planning to ruin the Duke's family. But the next second, the boy's gaze shifted back to the priest, and in those blood-red eyes, not a single trace of warmth could be seen. He smiled and asked the man, "How should I punish you for making my sister cry?" The eerie tone made chills run down their spines. The kneeling priest was already shaking like a leaf from fear. Everyone knows the second prince is a bloodthirsty killing monster, and angering him only leads to a dead end. The terror-dominated man immediately started to defend himself incoherently. He told the second prince, little Leah hasn't officially become the Duke's adopted daughter yet. Little did he know. This explanation struck the boy's reverse scale even more. The second prince pulled out an evil smirk. He whispered coldly in the priest's ear, "Those who bully my sister won't leave alive." At this moment, cold sweat dripped down the man's chin. He knew his time was up. In the end, all 3 priests received the punishment they deserved, and with the second prince's help, not only was the Duke cleared of treason, he even made the church pay a hefty financial price afterwards. Little Leah always wanted to find a chance to thank the boy, but when she told her dad her idea, she was strictly stopped by the man. It turns out the second prince, since birth, bore a terrifying curse. As long as his mind wasn't clear, he would fall into a killing frenzy. That is to say, little Leah staying by his side could encounter danger at any time, unless she could get the key to the library exclusive to the Holy Maiden. This is the only way to break the curse, and the only hope the second prince can rely on. Little Leah felt a bit sad in her heart. It seemed as a fake Holy Maiden, she really couldn't help with anything. But the girl didn't know. The reason her sister could enter the library of gods in her past life, in exchange for the true Holy Maiden identity, was all by borrowing her blood right in front of her brother. The girl showed her powerful reading ability, speed reading obscure magic books. Her excellence deeply amazed the arrogant Blake. The boy flatteringly expressed his fondness for his sister, but little Leah's eyes only held disgust, because she had already recognized him. This was one of the brothers who abandoned her in the fire just now. After eating, little Leah was taking a leisurely walk in the garden, looking at the magnificent scenery around her. The girl's thoughts also began to drift. The church has already found her, she figures. It's only a matter of time before the true Holy Maiden returns. The next second, a sharp pain struck her head. She rubbed her aching forehead and saw a fallen old book. Curious, the girl immediately picked it up. But before she could react, a tall, black-haired boy fell from the tree. The boy landed squarely on little Leah. His arrogant attitude showed no intention of apologizing. The girl immediately pushed him away in annoyance. Then she noticed the cookies the head maid gave her were crushed to pieces. Looking at the boy's indifferent poker face, an inexplicable anger surged in little Leah's heart. She complained in disgust about his behavior, and he wasn't even planning to spare the book she read. But Blake not only wasn't angry, he even excitedly approached her. He pointed to the longest text in the book and asked little Leah to translate it. The girl immediately gave the boy a suspicious look. These are clearly just normal modern words, but she still cooperated and read a few lines. Now in Blake's eyes, there was only pure shock. These are obscure ancient texts. If the girl could read them without any barrier, it proves she must be the true Holy Maiden candidate. And this child didn't cry or make a fuss even when she fell. Compared to those delicate noble ladies, the girl in front of him fit his aesthetic much better. So the boy flatteringly took little Leah's hand. He planted a light kiss on her fair fingertips. Such an action clearly exceeded the boundaries of siblings. The girl immediately pulled her hand back in disgust. From the very beginning, she rejected his approach from the bottom of her heart. Until this moment, she realized Blake's identity. He was the heir to the Black Knight family, one of the brothers who abandoned her in the fire in her past life. So she ignored the boy's eager concern and turned away without any hesitation. She didn't want to get involved with these people at all. The lessons of her past life had already bluntly taught her not to expect anything. But little Leah didn't know. The more she showed her aloof side, the more she fiercely attracted the boy's attention. The exceptionally beautiful Duke's daughter chose a low profile, but was still maliciously bullied by a few jealous two-faced girls. Just now, little Leah attended an upper-class art exhibition for the first time, but to avoid attracting too much attention, she specifically chose a plain short dress. The simple hem had no complex patterns, but it still highlighted her stunning beauty. Plus the social etiquette she crammed for days. Just standing still in the venue was enough to attract everyone's attention. Many royals and nobles cast amazed glances, but among them were also jealous stares. At this moment, little Leah was earnestly appreciating the paintings in the venue, but an arrogant voice interrupted her thoughts. The girl turned and saw an unfamiliar figure. Then she heard the blondie speak extremely rudely. He put on an ugly aristocratic air, interrogating little Leah's family background like scolding a servant. Upon learning she was an orphan, he immediately put on a disgusted expression. He wanted to mock the girl a few more times, but little Leah couldn't be bothered with him. She had already turned and left. While the pretty girl leisurely browsed the venue, the ignored boy was already furious. He deliberately found a suitor who admired him, planning to publicly embarrass the background-less Lilia. The next second, the playboy came up to the girl. Right off the bat, he questioned if she understood the paintings. His arrogant tone carried a nouveau-rich greasiness, and the surrounding crowd was already full of onlookers. The boy arrogantly pointed his finger at the girl's forehead and told her to recognize her own status. An orphan without parents had no right to be here. Poor people should tuck their tails between their legs. At this moment, angry little Leah completely snapped. Why should they insult her parents so recklessly? Why maliciously mock her origins? She had tried her best to stay low profile. Why provoke her over and over again? The girl decisively took a painting off the wall and smashed it right on the boy's head. The wooden frame slowly cracked. But little Leah showed no intention of stopping. The furious boy immediately yelled in anger. He stated the girl had messed with someone she shouldn't have. But the next second, a red-haired boy blocked right in front of little Leah. His appearance instantly silenced the noisy venue. This was the noble heir of the Red Knights. Why would he get involved with a lowly crazy girl? But before anyone could react, the boy had already spoken coldly. He stated little Leah's identity is the existence they truly couldn't afford to mess with. The Duke's mansion will cover today's damages. Next time, it won't just be a beating. She should have been the true holy maiden surrounded by stars. But her identity was stolen by her wicked sister. In her past life, little Leah always lived in her sister's shadow. Every move she made was compared to her sister. Her sister was the girl chosen by the gods. Her gentle appearance fulfilled all the people's fantasies of a holy maiden. While as a maiden sister, gloomy little Leah was like a rat hiding from the light. Wandering the streets all year round, she could only disguise herself with fierceness. And someone like her was destined to be treated as a stand-in. A slightly tough life would have been fine. But her sister had no intention of letting this poor sister go. She couldn't accept that her sister had the exact same face as her, so she deliberately orchestrated a seemingly accidental fire. The raging flames robbed little Leah of her beautiful looks and slowly pushed her into the abyss of death. Even after being reborn, the girl still had a deep fear of the fire from her past life, and this time, the terrifying nightmare completely erupted at the art exhibition. The red-haired boy set all the paintings in front of them on fire. This scene instantly triggered little Leah's bad memories. Her body felt like it had returned to that terrible fire again. Amidst the crowd's gasps, the girl fell into a deep coma. When little Leah opened her eyes again, kneeling before her was her missing sister. The girl wore the hypocritical smile. She gently told her sister someone would come rescue them soon. At this moment, the deliberately forgotten memories became devastatingly clear. Little Leah realized clearly this was a dream about her past life. But why the dream? Could she still feel the burning of the flames? Feel the suffocating pain? Even the despair at being unable to move was exactly the same. The next second, a black-haired boy rushed into the fire without hesitation. His familiar face made little Leah's heart clench violently. It's her brother. Her brother came to save her. But the boy ignored the injured girl. He ran straight to her sister's side. Then came the second, the third. Everyone only saw the unhurt sister, but treated the screaming little Leah like thin air. The rampant fire snake crawled onto the girl's beautiful face. The agony of the burns was magnified 100 times in the silent night. The girl forced herself to wake up. She told herself it was all a dream. The next second, a violent pull dragged her into a void space. She no longer felt the pain of burning flames. She saw neatly arranged books on the shelves. Could this be the legendary library of gods? And little Leah looked down and saw another self in torn clothes in her hand. She was holding a book written with the future. The next second, the self reading the book eerily looked up. The once fair face instantly broke out in ugly scars. Little Leah was immediately terrified, and her consciousness was instantly ripped out of the library. She opened her eyes and saw her haggard father by the bed. A series of questions slowly rose in her mind. Between her and her sister, who exactly is a true holy maiden? And what was up with that ancient book in the dream? The weak girl fainted at the art exhibition, and the first thing she did after waking up was actually go apologize to her father. She was clearly the victim who was bullied. But little Leah was already used to those indiscriminate misunderstandings. It was like this in her past life. Everyone favored her gentle and kind sister, while ugly her was destined to be the disaster everyone hated. Straining to explain would be seen as unrepentance of history. Fighting back in self-defense would be called stubbornness. So, sensible little Leah learned to endure silently, even if she hit back because she was insulted. The exhibition being ruined by her was an established fact. Thinking of this, the girl had stopped at the office door. Anxiously, she carefully pushed open the closed door. The Duke was sitting at the desk, frowning deeply. Little Leah's heart also leaped into her throat. Her father must be very disappointed in her. She had promised to be an obedient and sensible child, even if she couldn't be gentle and generous like her sister. At least she'd be an existence her father could be proud of. But what had she done now? She shamed the noble Duke's mansion and caused her proud father to worry. At this moment, sharp nails dug into her flesh. Little Leah lowered her head in shame. She didn't know how to speak up, nor did she know how furious her father would be upon seeing her, like waiting for a final judgment. She gathered her courage and muttered a wronged apology. But the next second, what answered her was the butler's deep bow. In Simon's eyes, it was his dereliction of duty that led to the sudden accident at the exhibition, and the root cause was all because of his ignorant prejudice against little Leah. He hated this illegitimate daughter of unknown origin, so he allowed her to be recklessly bullied at the exhibition. But now his personal grudge had affected the Duke's mansion's reputation, so even if little Leah banished him from the city, he'd have no complaints. Simon had prepared for the worst. However, the sensible girl had no intention of punishing anyone at all. She obediently stated she still wanted to keep learning from Simon. But the punishment part couldn't be skipped. A flash of slyness crossed little Leah's eyes. Then she decisively stated she punished the teacher to eat bell peppers for a month. The Duke looked at his adorable daughter with admiration. The pride in his heart was written all over his face. His little princess is so kind, she definitely takes after him. And her rebellious act at the exhibition was just too cool. The Duke generously praised little Leah's bravery. At the same time, he seriously told her if she got bullied, she must never hold it in. The Duke's mansion is her most solid backing. At this moment, little Leah felt her eyes sting for 2 whole lifetimes. It was the first time she felt such unconditional favoritism. Later the girl found out her father was indeed furious that day. But the target of his anger was the boy who bullied her at the exhibition. That kid's family was directly bankrupted by the Duke's mansion, and the little redhead who burned the paintings also received his deserved punishment. For a while, the entire noble circle knew how fiercely protected the Duke's mansion was, and little Leah was about to welcome her 9th birthday. This was her first time as an adopted daughter, making an appearance in social circles, but she didn't expect a terrible danger was quietly closing in. Reborn twice, she didn't want to be her sister's stand-in anymore, but she accidentally picked up the daughter-obsessed Duke, the father overnight, turned the wandering little beggar into a beloved princess surrounded by stars, not only fought over by the heirs of the 4 great families even. The cold second prince fell head over heels for her, but this wasn't the life little Leah wanted from start to finish. All she wanted was just a small family that truly belonged to her. She knew she wasn't the holy maiden of light who saves the world. She didn't want to be a thief who could only steal someone else's happiness. So, whenever the Duke spoiled her like his own daughter, she'd always carefully pull away, like right now. The Duke bought her a pretty dress, gave her cute dolls, but looking at herself like a princess in the mirror, she felt at a loss for a moment. She didn't know how long this illusory happiness could last, and as a fake, even wearing the most luxurious dress. Inside, she was still that orphan little beggar. She was a liar, a fraud who stole the nest. What would happen if her father found out the truth? Would he kick her out without mercy? Little Leah didn't dare to imagine that scene, right then. Sounds of arguing came from the toy store. The next second, a ragged little beggar was violently pushed out. The girl was holding a dirty toy. The shabby doll looked exactly like the one she had when she first came to the Duke's. At this moment, she saw her own reflection in that child, just like her poor self before being adopted by her father. So little Leah chased after her without hesitation. She gave the doll in her hand to that girl who looked like her. When the Duke caught up to her, little Leah's arms were already holding that dirty toy. She looked apologetically at her anxious father, but her look wasn't deliberately distant like before. At the moment she swapped dolls just now, she figured it out. Whether she's a holy maiden or a beggar, her father's feelings for her are real. She should try to accept this gentle kindness, instead of always living in the shadow of her past life. So little Leah smiled obediently. For the first time, she made a request to her dad. She wanted to eat sweet cream bread, and wanted to share it with the lonely second prince. Receiving his daughter's request, the old father immediately agreed with joy. And he had another piece of good news for little Leah. The royal family had approved the adoption request submitted by the Duke's mansion. But this was all thanks to the second prince's hard work. He secretly altered her clothing records, and promised he'd die from the terrible curse in 3 years. He used his life with the girl he loved to secure an official identity for her. But all of this, little Leah herself was kept in the dark. Just how pretty could the little beggar be? After dressing up just a faint smile, made the heirs of 3 great families fight to dance with her. Today was little Leah's first time in social circles. Early in the morning, she changed into a pure white haute couture dress. The exquisite makeup made her look like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Amidst the grand trumpet sounds, the girl held her father's hand and appeared before the crowd. Some had questioned little Leah's vulgar background before, but after seeing the girl's proper etiquette, all rumors were shattered. And this appearance of hers, almost identical to the previous holy maiden, made the guests believe even more that she was a holy maiden of light who brings blessings. She's the empire's rising star. Thunderous applause erupted. But little Leah was so nervous she tripped. It was her first time facing the public. The lines she prepared were completely forgotten. She looked at her father for help, but only got an encouraging look. Then she remembered. Thoughtful Simon had written a cheat sheet on her hand. The nervous girl found her savior, but looking down, the words had been completely blurred by sweat. Now she was doomed. She looked nervously at the crowd, but couldn't say a single word. Yet the next second, her father's applause echoed in the silent hall. Right after, the other guests also applauded warmly. All her anxiety was swept away. Leah took a firm step forward. Even without those fancy prepared lines, her heartfelt words won the crowd's approval. She gracefully thanked all the guests, then elegantly took her father's hand. They walked down together. Only then did Leah ask sadly if she did poorly. The next second, the Duke proudly patted her head. He gently praised her for doing a great job. Besides, this banquet was just for her. She could do whatever she wanted. His words gave her great courage and hope for a better future. But the grand banquet had just begun when an arrogant girl came to pick a fight. The dark-haired girl sneered arrogantly. She immediately mocked Leah's commoner origins. Sophia did this purely to avenge her cousin, Daniel, just a few days ago. Her cousin clashed with this girl. In the end, Leah faced no punishment for hitting him. Instead, his family was bankrupted by the Duke. She was furious. So she came to cause trouble. But she didn't know her cousin had sneaked into the hall, nearly killing Leah on the spot. The fake holy maiden accidentally became the beloved heiress. She got 3 handsome, doting brothers, and even the cold second prince was willing to die for her. But her happy life had just begun. Leah was schemed against at her own birthday party. In an unguarded corner, a strange dark figure quietly cut the reins. This was the Duke's birthday gift to her. The guests were waiting for the test flight. Soon after, Leah was called by her father to the open courtyard. Unaware of the danger, her eyes widened with excitement. The giant Pegasus sparkled in the sun. Its spread wings seemed to await its master. Leah gaped in disbelief. Did someone as lowly as her deserve such a gift? Before she could react, her father gently urged her to try. His firm gaze gave her courage. She hopped onto the Pegasus without hesitation. The next second, its massive wings flapped amid gasps. They soared into the air. She felt as free as a bird. But no one noticed the Pegasus's eyes had turned a sinister red, and the safety rein had secretly snapped in two. Seeing her fly higher and higher, the Duke's heart clenched. He anxiously called her name, but danger quietly descended. The once calm Pegasus let out an agonized neigh. It shot into the sky at a dangerous angle, the violent shaking nearly threw Leah off. At this moment, she only thought of death. She hoped the fall would be painless, hoped her father could save her at the last second. Give up? No one's coming, she thought despairingly. Her grip on the rein slowly loosened. Yet the next second, an anxious voice reached her ear. Leah turned around, meeting the second prince's worried eyes. She had waited to lifetimes for this glance. So, someone really would risk everything to save her. Her fear vanished. She believed the second prince would take her back safely. Their fingertips drew closer in the high altitude. But they always missed by an inch. They'd both die at this rate. So the prince used all his magic. He grabbed Leah's hand. Even if it worsened his curse, he had to save her life. Amidst the crowd's gasped the second prince and Leah fell from the sky together. They were dying. So when danger came, he chose to sacrifice himself without thinking. He would protect Leah with his life. That was his greatest obsession. Since childhood, Julian lived in the fear of others. He had no friends or freedom. The emperor placed him under house arrest. The only place he could move around was his own room. The tiny window held his lonely childhood. Because of this damn curse, he lost almost everything a prince should have. His father wished he'd die early. His mother saw him as a stain. The second prince actually knew, sooner or later, he'd turn into a mindless monster and the prideful royal family would only execute him. The boy had calmly accepted his fate. Until the day he met Leah in the garden, the stars were bright that night, but her flowing dress made her outshine the stars. Later, he heard she was the Holy Maiden's only daughter, his only hope to break the curse. He admitted that at first. He approached Leah to save himself, but after months together, she became his only family. Now that Leah was in danger, he protected her without thinking. He hugged the falling girl tightly, using his flesh to block all the damage the next second. Intense pain blurred his consciousness, seeing Leah unharmed. The prince closed his eyes in satisfaction. Meanwhile, Leah was too stunned to move by what just happened. She stared blankly at the unconscious Julian. Blood soaked the ground. Her body ached as if falling apart, but she forced herself to crawl to him. She dragged her battered body. Her dry throat couldn't make a sound. It can't be, Julian is going to die like this. But what could she do? Covered in wounds, she could only pray to the gods. Please don't take the prince's life. Perhaps the heavens heard her prayer. The next second, a dazzling golden light burst from her body. She returned to the legendary library of gods. This time she knew her identity. She knew the fake Holy Maiden used forbidden magic to alter fate, and used her as a substitute. But she was a true Holy Maiden. Leah looked to the scene in deep thought. Just a second ago, she and the prince were in a pool of blood. Now she was in her dream. The pain miraculously vanished. She curiously examined her surroundings. Right then, a cute little ghost appeared before her. Leah was amazed to find she could understand its language. The ghost angrily complained to her. It said a bad guy with silver hair ruined the book of fate. They were working overtime to fix it. Hearing this, Leah leaned in closely and was shocked to find the contents were exactly like her past life. It had clear signs of tampering. The original text was blurred out. A bold idea crossed her mind. As a fake, could she actually be the real one? And could that silver-haired intruder be the missing Holy Maiden? But before she could sort out her thoughts, intense pain swept through her. When Leah opened her eyes, she saw her exhausted father. He rushed to her bedside, carefully asking where it hurt. His eyes were filled with deep guilt. He shouldn't have given her such a dangerous gift. Seeing the Duke's pain, Leah tried hard to open her mouth. She comforted him in a hoarse voice, saying it wasn't his fault. She really liked the gift he gave her. If it weren't for him, she might never have had the chance to be blessed in this life, the grand ball, the sweet cake, and her very own beautiful dresses. Everything felt like a dream. Dad was the best gift from heaven. Then she remembered the severely injured Julian. While falling, he protected her with his whole body. She wondered how he was now. Leah asked her father worriedly. The man hesitated and shook his head. He said the prince was physically fine, but his curse had worsened. However, the Duke didn't tell Leah everything to save her. Julian was completely drained by the curse. His moments of sanity were pitifully short. It wouldn't be long before he turned into a mindless monster. Except for the true Holy Maiden, no one could save him. Not wanting her to worry, the prince hid his condition. It was incredibly hard to stay awake now. Yet he insisted on writing to Leah every day. He left his remaining time for her, using the gentlest words to cover up a cruel truth. He was about to become a monster. Meanwhile, Leah was kept completely in the dark. 2 weeks had passed since the injury. She could barely sit up in bed now. Her father had tons of official business, so she obediently stayed in her room. It inevitably got boring over time. She just let her mind wander. During those days, the heirs of several major families all came to visit her, but her father turned them away, saying she needed rest. Of course, Leah had no urge to see them again. The pain of being abandoned in her past life still haunted her. On the other hand, the culprit who hurt her was quickly found. The Duke forcefully pressured the other families. Unable to take it, Daniel turned himself in. Though the bad guy was punished, Leah's heart was still heavy. She kept worrying about the prince's health as she looked anxiously out the window. She saw a mechanical bird flapping its wings toward her. The bird held a blue rose in its beak and a short letter tied to its leg. The neat handwriting was just like its owner, elegant and clean. The letter said he'd give her another blue rose next time they meet. Her anxious heart finally settled. She decided to write back. Countless caring words crossed her mind, but she only wrote, "I am fine." She guessed the prince felt the same. They were both worried about each other. From that day on, the two who couldn't meet passed time with heartfelt letters, and these back-and-forth letters drew their sensitive hearts closer. A month passed in a flash. An uninvited guest arrived home. The man looked almost exactly like the Duke. He rushed back just for Julian's illness, but Leah didn't like this new, cheap uncle. She always felt he already knew her secret as a fake. The girl behind the door finally discovered her true origins. It turned out her father always knew she wasn't the real Holy Maiden. He wanted to use her prestige to maintain the family status, and the price for doing so was sacrificing Julian's life. The boy was tortured to madness by the curse. Only the true Holy Maiden could change his fate. Though the Duke couldn't bear to hurt his only nephew, finding the true maiden was slim. So he decided to maintain the status quo. Leah's breath caught in her throat. So her father's affection was just manipulation. She didn't want to be like her past life, a substitute for someone else. Nor did she want to die miserably in her sister's shadow. Thinking of this, Leah slumped to the floor. Everything since her rebirth flashed through her mind like a slideshow. If only her sister was found instead. Her father wouldn't have to worry about the family's future. Julian wouldn't suffer from his illness anymore. Everything would turn out for the better. They didn't need a useless piece of trash who couldn't even use magic. But was she really willing to give up her current life? A gentle father, a loving family, a soft big bed, a life without hardship, and Julian, those days of being beaten and starved. She never wanted to experience them again. The confused girl chose to run away. Back in her room, she unsurprisingly couldn't sleep. She couldn't bear to leave this life. Yet she couldn't bear to see Julian suffer. The next day, Leah had huge dark circles under her eyes. She appeared before everyone, immediately asking to see the critically ill prince. Unable to dissuade her, the Duke agreed, accompanied by others. The girl was taken to a remote villa, the dark corridor, reeked of a bloody stench. Leah's heart leapt into her throat. She told herself not to be afraid, but seeing Julian's tragic state, her body froze uncontrollably. The boy was bound in heavy chains. His pale face was only terrifyingly ferocious. He roared and lunged at Leah. She covered her mouth in disbelief. Tears swirled madly in her eyes. Just then, the man beside her spoke. He told Leah regretfully that the prince's condition shouldn't have deteriorated this fast, but he ignored advice and used ice magic. He supposedly filled the whole room with ice, causing him to end up like this. Hearing this, Leah's pupil shrank. She remembered the promised blue rose. There was never a blue rose to begin with. The prince, trying to comfort her, had used magic. He dragged his severely ill body, and with chained hands replied to her word by word. At this moment, Leah was determined to find the true Holy Maiden. She had to find her sister to cure Julian. This was the Empire's greatest tragedy in centuries. Right after birth, the Holy Maiden's identity was swapped by her evil sister. Leah always thought she was the imposter taking over the nest, never expecting the real villain was right beside her. Now Julian's life was in danger. She had to leave her father to find the missing Holy Maiden. In her past life's memory, the one who saved the Duke in the alley was actually her sister. She used powerful divine magic to heal the severely injured father, and from that day on, her sister became the beloved Holy Maiden, until a charity event a year later, when her noble self brought the injured Leah back to the palace. This sister must still be in that slum. Thinking of this, Leah decided to tell her father the secret of her rebirth, but soon after, the conflicted girl dismissed the idea. Her father would never believe such an absurd story. Besides, he wanted to use her to maintain the family status. She might as well pack up and run away. She had to give this life back to her sister. Her appearance caused the story to collapse. Only her disappearance could solve the current problem completely. Maybe when the real Maiden returned, her father wouldn't even look at her. But as long as her dad was happy, she was willing to be a destitute, helpless beggar forever. Tears swirled madly in the girl's eyes. She fought back her sorrow and tied a dead knot in the bed sheets. Leah moved so slowly, as if reluctant to leave her current family. She really couldn't bear to leave. Even if the Duke's care was just exploitation, or she was deceiving herself, she still remembered her father's goodness, remembered the sweet scent of his embrace, remembered his gentle eyes when he spoke. But soon, all these happy moments would belong to her past life sister. She would revert to a beggar with nothing. But that's okay. At least she knew her father truly cared. The knot in her hand was already tied. Leah was ready to leave. She initially wanted to see her father one last time, but feared her greedy self couldn't bear to part. Ultimately, she decided to leave tonight. Then she threw the long rope downstairs, but no one expected the rope to land right in front of her uncle. Now she was doomed. Leah shrank her head awkwardly, never expecting the teasing man actually planned to help her. The next day, he brought a rolled blanket and boarded the departing carriage. By the time the Duke realized, his daughter's room was already empty. To protect her brother, the girl showed her knowledge of the plot for the first time. Reborn for 2 lifetimes, she already knew she wasn't the real Holy Maiden. So, when she learned her father planned to sacrifice Julian, the sensible Leah chose to leave immediately. It was useless. She couldn't break the prince's curse. She had to find her missing sister. However, when she arrived at her old street, it was no longer dirty and messy. Her abusive old boss had disappeared. Even the nearby shops had new owners, meaning she couldn't find any trace of her sister. The real Holy Maiden she replaced was gone. Her uncle beside her asked if they should expand the search. Leah frowned and shook her head. She didn't know if her appearance had changed the original storyline. But Julian, Blake, and Edmund, they all appeared in the exact same order as her past life. Why couldn't she find her missing sister? This made leaving the Duke's estate meaningless, and would only cause her father trouble. But that was fine too. She could just really enjoy feeling loved a few more days. She forever buried these sweet memories deep in her heart. When her sister returns, she could sneak away with no regrets. As Leah was lost in thought, her uncle suddenly picked her up and ran. The bewildered girl looked back to see her desperate father. In full hunting mode with glowing eyes, he furiously yelled Lorenzo's name, looking terrifying, as if he wanted to tear his reckless brother into a million pieces. A long time passed before the uncle and niece shook off the furious Duke, but Leah felt completely flustered. What exactly were her father's feelings for her? Did he want to use her as a substitute, or simply missed his runaway daughter? If only she could find her sister, then she wouldn't have to suffer this inner torment. Thinking of this, she decided to go home. But when she looked up, a stranger's back was beside her. She had lost the uncle accompanying her. Time flashed to nighttime. The once busy streets gradually grew deserted. The empty streets had few pedestrians. Leah's stomach rumbled. She hadn't felt hunger in a long time. Left with no choice, she found a street stall. She took out her only valuable item, the brooch Blake gave her. But remembering how he abandoned her in her past life, she saw no reason to keep it. Better to trade it for a sweet, soft crepe to warm herself up. However, the stall lady immediately recognized it. This was the Black Knight's brooch. She mistook Leah for the family's lost noble guest. So she called a carriage and sent her to the Lampas family store. Now, the runaway could absolutely not go back, and her status as an illegitimate daughter brought unnecessary trouble. To protect their first love, the 3 brothers abandoned their injured sister in the fire. The girl was horribly burned and disfigured. No matter how she screamed, no one saved her. So reborn again, the clear-headed Leah decided to love no one. But unexpectedly, the 3 brothers fell hopelessly in love with her. Just now, Leah got on the wrong carriage home. By the time she realized she was at the Lampas estate, looking at the unfamiliar, grand building, the girl gulped nervously. Was she secretly sold by human traffickers? Just then, a kind man walked right up to her. Leah blinked in surprise. Wasn't this an older version of Blake? In her past life's memory, he and the Duke had a good relationship. He could probably help her get home. So Leah spoke politely, asking the man to help her return to the Valencia territory. However, Duke Lampas didn't immediately agree. He invited Leah to stay for a few days, promising to notify Valencia to come pick her up. Right then, a familiar face squeezed through the crowd. This was Blake, who was obsessed with Leah. The boy's voice trembled slightly. He softly called the girl's name. Leah hadn't expected this deeply affectionate look. She immediately gave a dismissive hello. The next second, the man's hearty laugh rang out. Duke Lampas seemed very pleased with their relationship. Sadly, their plan to suck up to the real Holy Maiden was flawed. She was just a lookalike little beggar. Time flew to nighttime. Leah was led by Blake to her own room in the empty corridor. The boy suddenly stopped, trembling. He confessed his true feelings. He thought Leah almost died at that debut ball. They had just finished a beautiful dance. He even prepared his confession. But before they could meet again, Leah was lying in a pool of blood. So much blood spilled everywhere, and Duke Valencia wouldn't let him visit. He was seriously worried to death. Thank heavens he didn't lose his beloved girl. As the boy prepared to give his delayed confession, Leah cut him off coldly. She asked Blake why he cared. They didn't have any special relationship. Then she pulled out the gifted brooch, stating she didn't need anyone's thanks. Her words deeply pierced the boy's heart. He froze in place, bewildered. Finally, Leah sighed lightly, pinning the brooch back on him. She couldn't be soft on Blake. This guy, upon seeing the real Holy Maiden, would turn faster than anyone. She didn't need a two-faced scumbag. Thinking of this, Leah turned and walked away without hesitation, leaving the boy alone to suffer the pain of loss. This girl stunned everyone with her first outburst. Her retort was flawless as soon as she spoke. She left the Lampa's young master completely speechless. Just now, the Lampa's patriarch invited Leah to have dinner together. But when she entered the bright dining room, she was met with shameless flattery. A dazzling array of dishes piled the table. Just one look was enough to cause indigestion. And the man at the head of the table cast an eerie glance. He endlessly showed off his territory's rich produce. This peacock-like showing off made Leah roll her eyes silently. She could only quietly stuff food in her mouth. Yet for some reason, this family's dynamics felt inexplicably bizarre. The smart girl quickly spotted the disharmony. Blake, the eldest son, was actually ostracized by everyone since the meal started. The boy stayed totally silent, and the others treated him like invisible air. But what did that matter to her? She just wanted to end this uncomfortable dinner quickly. But the next second, the Lampa's young master suddenly spoke up. Feigning innocence, he asked if Leah was a stupid bitch, one said. The dining room felt eerily quiet. But the Duke, as a guardian, didn't stop his son's vile behavior. He dismissively said, "Children speak with no filter," and told Leah, being the older sister, not to lower herself to his level. Seeing someone backing him up, the arrogant brat became even more recklessly insolent. He boldly mocked the girl's lowly origins and shamelessly declared that Duke Valencia, who adopted her, was just a reckless idiot. At this moment, pure evil was fully displayed on the boy's face, and the girl, who had been enduring it, reached the edge of fury. She could accept vile insults directed at herself, but no one could insult the father who gave her salvation. At this moment, her gaze grew incredibly firm. She calmly admitted her miserable past in the slums. She had been poor, wandered, begged like a dog. She drank foul water from the roadside and threw away her human dignity just for a few scraps. But none of this was shameful. An orphan, just wanting to survive humbly. What's wrong with that? After speaking, Leah calmly stared into the boy's eyes. Her sharp gaze locked onto him with an inexplicable mood. They were truly a bunch of hypocritical rich people. They claimed they wanted to get along, yet they were the ones looking down on her now. If only her father could pick her up sooner. The girl thought dully, never expecting the young master who bullied her to cry first. The boy ran out of the room howling. Knowing they were in the wrong, the Duke and his wife could only awkwardly chase after him. Now, the dining room only had Blake and Leah left staring at each other. But the girl, focused on her food, never expected Blake to confess to her directly again. The brother who treated her as a substitute actually fell hopelessly in love with her in this life. Blake confessed to Leah deeply. But the girl's face only showed cold rejection. Memories of her past life made her unable to forget this boy who abandoned her. Unforgettable the day she burned in the fire. Why was a true maiden's life precious while she was just a tool for everyone's romance? The girl remembered the night she first met Blake. He said he liked girls who didn't cry or fuss like Leah. Was that really the truth? She just couldn't find a shoulder to lean on. So whenever she wanted to cry, she would force down her grievances and swallow her tears. Those wandering days taught her that only loved children had the right to cry. An orphan like her never had the right to be willful. But things were different now. She had a family that loved her, and her tears would be cherished. Since being adopted by the Duke, she felt she cried more than before. So she was never the type Blake liked, and she would never love a scumbag who abandoned her. With that said, Leah righteously rejected his advances, leaving the disappointed boy staring. The girl turned and walked away without looking back. Back in her room, she curled up alone on the small bed. The next second, a violent pain churned in her stomach. Probably ate too much at dinner. At this moment, she suddenly really missed her gentle dad. She wanted to return to that warm home. Suddenly, Leah felt something important was missing from her arms. She had accidentally lost her doll. So early the next morning, the sleepless girl rushed back to the dining room, but a maid told her that rag doll had been taken by Blake to the courtyard. With no choice, Leah had to force herself to follow him. At this very moment, the boy who waited all night was dozing off on a bench. He feared a momentary lapse would make him miss his beloved girl, so he stayed completely still. When Leah approached to shake him awake, the boy pulled her right up to him. His warm breath was so close, almost kissing Leah's flesh lips. The girl immediately pulled away in disgust. She coldly demanded her doll back. Seeing this, Blake could only lower his head hurtfully. He sadly asked Leah if she could not hate him. He just wanted to be friends. He hated crying kids the most. But if it was Leah, he was willing to shed tears only for her. With that, Blake pressed against her warm palm, tilting his head. He looked like a creepy, needy puppy. This scene made Leah's mouth twitch. But she quickly calmed down. Blake only loved the true Holy Maiden. As soon as her sister returns, he would change his feelings without hesitation. Better not to even be normal friends. At least she wouldn't be hurt by abandonment again. So Leah waved him off dismissively. But right then, a man's shout came from nearby. The girl's eyes lit up instantly. It's Dad. Dad came to take her home. The fake substitute daughter chose to run away. The regretful old father immediately broke down. In just half a month, he searched nearly every corner of the empire. Finally, at the Lampa's household, he found his lost daughter. However, before he recovered from the joy of reunion, Leah knocked heavily on Blake's forehead. Seeing this, the old father instantly gave a death glare. He threatened the dark-haired punk to stay away from his daughter. How dare that guy bump his daughter's tiny hand with his forehead? He couldn't stand his little princess suffering the slightest grievance. Hearing the Duke's words, Leah couldn't help but smile. Her father's protectiveness was just too much. Clearly she was the one bullying Blake, but this feeling of being favored was truly wonderful. She wanted to quickly return to her warm home with her dad. However, the Duke suddenly looked troubled. Fearing his heartbroken daughter wouldn't want to go home with him, he truly regretted it. He had to explain things to Leah, What she overheard that night was all his brother's plan. As a father, he never thought of using his daughter in the slightest. He wouldn't force her if she didn't want to return, but he didn't expect his daughter to shake her head vigorously. She missed home, wanted to return to their home, and so, father and daughter smoothly resolved their past misunderstanding. Leah couldn't wait to leave this miserable Lampa's place. Before leaving, she willingly approached Blake. The boy thought Leah was reluctant to part, but saw her smilingly tell him she hated him the most and hoped they'd never meet again. The next second, the boy looking down actually burst out laughing. What kind of goodbye was this? But he just liked sharp-tongued girls like Leah. So before she could even react, Blake gently kissed her cheek. He stuffed the recovered rag doll back into her arms. Meanwhile, her old father completely blew up. If his brother wasn't stopping him, he definitely would have thrown this ill-mannered little brat to the fishes. And so, the group boarded the carriage home. Along the way, Leah recalled everything that happened recently. The smart girl faintly sensed a conspiracy, but she couldn't figure out where the problem lay. In her past life, her sister wandered the same street with her. But this life, she vanished like thin air. Thinking of everything in her past life, it was as if her life was a prearranged script, and the truth was exactly as she suspected. In the original storyline, there was no sister at all. Just an artificial monster made with black magic. She secretly altered the Book of Fate, letting her fake self replace the true Holy Maiden. But the fake Maiden's body needed endless blood. So the despicable her brought Leah back. As a mobile blood bank, the poor girl was completely kept in the dark and deceived. Reborn again, she saved the Duke according to the original plot. The fake sister no longer had a reason to appear, but the book in the Library of Gods was destroyed by the fake Maiden, so she couldn't awaken her powerful divine magic. The girl's blood could cure any disease, just a drop could restore a dying patient to health. However, Leah didn't know her secret identity. She was still foolishly looking for a maiden to save the prince, yet in the carriage home, her father told her the prince's mind was clear again. He was even healthier than before the injury. At this moment, Leah felt all her hardships were worth it. She didn't have to leave her family to save anyone anymore. But how exactly did Julian recover, even with the true Holy Maiden around? It took half a year of treatment for the prince to temporarily recover. Could it be her blood? Leah looked at the remaining scars on her wrist. Those were the marks where Julian grabbed her last time. Just then, her uncle spoke up, confirming the girl's bold guess. Ancient books said a maiden's flesh could bring the dead back to life. Her blood must have suppressed the prince's curse. Soon, the carriage stopped at the Duke's door. A fully dressed-up Julian had been waiting outside for a long time. His white suit made him look as dazzling as a prince. Smiling, he invited Leah to come home with him. Next was dinner time. The family chatted at the table about recent events, seeing Julian talking so eloquently. The girl's anxious heart finally settled, yet after dinner, her uncle suddenly stopped her. Leah thought they'd talk about something important, but heard him say he needed to draw her blood for research. A hint of hesitation flashed in her eyes, but she still agreed to this excessive request. After all, Julian's curse wasn't fully eradicated, and she also wanted to know what secret her blood hid. But remembering those days of daily blood draws, Leah still felt a faint unease. It's fine, it's just a little blood. The girl tried hard to stay calm. She even voluntarily offered her left hand. Her obedient look was heartbreaking. Lorenzo also tried to lighten his needle insertion, but as the sharp needle pierced her skin, he noticed something wrong with her body. Her eyes had long lost their normal focus. Her whole body trembled like a leaf. Only then did Lorenzo realize Leah's calmness just now was all fake. Drawing blood brought